Hey there, I'm Will.
I'm Hannah.
You probably already knew that. We're going to get into some 90-90 work. So the 90-90 position, sometimes we'll call it like the Swiss Army knife of mobility training because it's such a multifaceted way to work on so many different components of your hip mobility, some of which we really are clear about wanting to improve, but there's some parts of your hip mobility and your general mobility that only you will be able to find. And so I want to just plant a little seed for you to think about how you might creatively work your way into positions from this series that we'll show you that will benefit you specifically, and you can really start to work on your stuff. I'll get back to that a little later on in the class. But to start, let's get into a 90-90 position, somewhere comfortable on the floor, maybe a mat under you just to provide a little support for your knees. And we're just going to kind of get back into a stretch for the front leg to start. So that would be your hip and external rotation. And you're going to hunt for that stretch by thinking tail feathers up high, leaning your way forward into kind of an angle at your back, and really trying to hunt for that stretch in your front leg glute, in that back pocket area. Okay? You might find it with just a little lean, or you might need to lean quite a ways in order to hunt out that stretch. Okay, so that's one of the possibilities in 90-90 is that you're already in rotation, so you can find some really deep stretches. So from here, I'm going to just have you remind your body and your brain what that isometric effort would feel like from this position. So start gently pushing your front ankle and knee down towards the floor. Let it be light at first, and then add on to that effort as you start thinking more and more about rotating that front leg. Okay, trying to drive the ankle through the floor, ramp that effort up to 50%, and we're just going to hold it at 50%. Just try to turn the lights on in these muscles. Now transition over now to thinking light with the ankle. So you're now trying to rotate your thigh the other way, trying to pull yourself deeper into the stretch that you had just found, and feel that regressive tissue, that rails contraction. All right, and let that go. Okay, now from here we're going to incorporate a little bit of movement now. So start that pales contraction again, knee and ankle pushing down into the floor, and really anchor it down. Start pushing so much that something wants to move, like you're almost ready to start moving, and now let your body start to move by bringing your spine upright and pushing the floor away. Good. Keep pushing until your shoulders are all the way over your hips, and then pause here. Switch to thinking rails. Think about pulling your ankle up off the floor and use that to pull your spine back forward into that stretch. Really keep pulling until you find a complete stop. And this should feel like the same stretch you just found a moment ago. Pause, create a pales contraction, knee and ankle pushing into the floor, and use that pales to smoothly push yourself all the way back upright. At the top, rails contract, pull yourself forward, try to really bite down on your hip crease. Reach your belly button further out in front of your kneecap. Good. At the basement of that, push pales contract into the floor and drive yourself up and out. Keep going back and forth here for the rest of this minute and really try to go slow enough to feel any new sensations that might present themselves. There we go. Good. Not letting your spine round, keeping your spine as one strong unit, and really honing into the motion that you can find right at that front hip. You got 30 seconds. Good. Very nice. It's going to take some real gusto to keep the rest of your body braced. You can see Hannah's making a fist with that back arm. That's one way to keep your body engaged. Keep breathing around the brace that you have. Don't let it be an either-or situation. Breathe and brace. Good. Let this be your final rep. Push yourself all the way back upright. and relax. Very nice. Okay, now that hand that was making a fist, you can place it just on your hip now. And now we're going to explore the other hip. So just turn your pelvis to face towards that back shin. So in 90-90 on this side, this back hip is near an internally rotated end range position. We're going to try to find that here. And really keep turning. You might notice a stretch right away, or you might notice that you need to lift your backhand off the floor and sit up. So just try sitting up for a moment. Yeah, you might feel that you need to turn from here. So just twist your body as much as you need to find that stretch. Good. Now Hannah has quite a bit of internal rotation. So if you have less, you might need to lean back like she was showing a second ago. So just go ahead and lean back now. Good. And this might be where you find the stretch. But I just want you to take 30 seconds for your setup and hunt for that stretch feeling. We are going for a twisting type of stretch in the hip and not necessarily one specific line on the joint. Good. Taking some deep breaths. Let your nervous system relax into this position. Okay. All right, now wherever you have settled into this stretch, put your hands in a position that help provide some brace against the floor so that you're not going to move, or you're going to feel movement if it starts trying to happen. And let's do a little pails rails for this back leg. So same as the front leg, think ankle and knee pressure into the floor, pushing down, and use that to generate a rotational effort through the thigh. Really thinking of rotating the thigh, add on some tension, add on more effort into the floor. Bring it up to 50% effort and hold it there. Good. You're trying to focus on loading the stretched tissue. From here now, transition to thinking light ankle and knee. Don't let your body move at all, but do feel the contraction move to the other side of the joint. So now you're trying to rotate your thigh such that the ankle might come off the floor. This is a direct route to cramp city. So if you're feeling any cramping, try to tolerate it, try to breathe through it, but keep the intensity high. 5 more seconds. And melt that away. Good. So we've just turned the lights on in both hips at end range. I'm going to now have you turn to face your front knee again. And we're going to incorporate a little movement for this back leg. So from here, really brace both hands into the floor. Almost like you're going to push down and do a plank on the floor. Okay, so really feel that plank tension. And then keeping your torso braced and not moving, start lifting your back knee straight up off the floor, but not so high that your belly button turns. And drop that knee back down. Just up and down with the knee and thigh bone, but nothing moving in your pelvis or spine. Keeping those hands heavy and using that tension to generate this very controlled motion at your end range on your back leg. Good. Very nice. Okay, now on this next rep, bring that knee again off the floor. Hold it there. Lift this same side arm and make a fist. Now we're going to continue lifting the knee, prying that knee as far away from the other knee as you can without letting this front knee move. So keep trying to pin it towards the floor. And then turn back, turning your pelvis first and then setting the knee down. Good. Okay? So as we continue going, just take a moment and really push that front knee into the floor. Keep it pinned and anchored. And then let's keep moving with the back leg. Knee lifts first, then the pelvis turns. You might feel both glutes squeeze as you start to really get to that end range position. And then turn your way back, setting the knee down as the last piece. Okay? Keep going, 30 more seconds. Maximizing the distance that you can find between your knees. Maximizing the stretch you can find in your inner thighs, as well as the contraction in your glutes in the back of your hips. Nice. Let's do one more rep. Anchoring through that front knee, push it away. Now this time, as you approach your end range, you're going to hold that position. Okay, so really find that widest position that you can. All right, and now start letting this front knee off the floor and come into a straddle 90-90 position. Hold it here. You might also know it as a bear sit position. We're just going to take a moment and relax here. So you might feel like the only way to have a straightish spine is to lean back. That's totally fine. But you ideally, I want to pull your body forward by grabbing onto your shins and pulling your spine nice and tall. All right. Now in this position, Hannah looks pretty happy. You're going to use your elbows to try to drive your knees wide and get a little bit more stretch in your inner thighs. Okay. Take a moment and really try to find that stretch. Once you do, add on to the tension in that stretch by pulling your chest up tall, reaching your belly button forward, and think about what kind of mobility you would need to get your knees all the way to the floor. Just consider that as you stretch here. Good. Okay. Now from this position, we're going to take advantage of this little bit more range that you just stretched into by doing a quick Pales rails here as well. Again, turning on the lights. So without anything moving, start trying to drive your knees in towards each other, but be strong enough in your upper body that nothing's going to move. So we're creating a little bit of a battle between the arms and the legs. Continue ramping up that effort to about 50% effort. Good, and really hold on to that 50% effort clearly. 5, 4, 3, 2, keep your effort, but now try to pull your knees off of your elbows. Find what contraction might happen in your glutes to create that outward feeling with your knees. And show me that you are able to keep it there by reaching both fists out in front of you. And let's hold this contraction. Imagine someone's trying to drive your knees in and you're actively driving your knees out. 5, 4, 3, 2, and relax again back into that stretch. You might be able to drive your knees a bit wider, reach that belly button a little bit further forward, and chest comes up nice and tall. Good. There you go. Good. Okay. Now, from here, we're just going to relax into the stretch and get a little moment for your neck, a little break for your hips. So go ahead and pull your chin into your neck. Find a stretch at the back of your neck. Reach your chin down to your chest. And then we're going to start a car off to the right, starting to look over your right shoulder. When you can't turn anymore, tip your head back. Reach your chin up and over. And trace your collarbone with your chin, pulling back into your neck. Let's go ahead and tick-tock it, going the other way. This should be a pretty gentle car, just giving your hips a break and getting a little bit of stretch in your neck joint. Let's keep going back and forth. Now, one reason I wanted to incorporate this into a hip series is because very often when you're working hard through your lower body or through your lower back, for whatever reason, your neck gets short. Your shoulders come up to your ears and you start to hold a lot of tension in that area. The problem is tension in that area doesn't help the work that we're doing in the rest of your body. So you want to just try to mitigate that a bit or at least become aware of it. And cars are ideal for building awareness. Okay? All right, and let's leave it there. We're going to now continue moving through that transition over to the other side. So brace your one or both hands into a fist and continue turning towards what was your back leg so that you're in a 90-90 position facing the other way. Your front knee will pin down first. Move with control so you can turn your pelvis towards that front knee. And then keep turning your pelvis as much as you can. When it doesn't turn any further, you're going to hold it there and bring your back knee towards the floor. Great. All right, now lean your body forward into a stretch of your front leg. So we're going to just check in on this side now. Really thinking tail feathers up, reaching your belly button out and over your front kneecap. And that's just a way to think of how you might be able to stretch specifically your hip and not rounding your spine. Good. Taking a few breaths here. All right. Now let's feel that pales rails. So start thinking front ankle and knee pushing down into the floor. As you ramp up the intensity of that pressure into the floor, notice that the area that was stretching in your glute is now contracting, is now working. Good. Ramp that effort up to 50%. Using your arms to gauge no motion in the rest of your body. And now transition over to your rails contraction. Think of pulling your front foot off of the floor, pulling your belly button closer to your knee, and maybe even stretching the back of the hip a little bit further. Good. Noticing what muscles turn on in this position, and then relax. Good. All right. Now go ahead and generate your pales contraction again, pushing your knee and ankle down, and now we're going to incorporate that bit of movement. So start pushing the floor away as you bring your shoulders up and over your pelvis. And when you get straight up and down, you're going to turn your rails contraction on. Think about lightening your leg and using that to pull your torso forward into a deep stretch again. When you get a complete stop, can't go any further, pause and change to pales. Push the floor away. Come all the way up. Continue pushing the floor away as you bring your torso upright. Then clearly pause and feel a rails contraction. Good. We need to be hyper aware of the control here if we want to try to make things work better. So really take your time, back and forth, 45 seconds. If you notice that the effort flags in any position, go ahead and pause there and make sure you really feel, whether you're palesing or railsing, you're really feeling that specific contraction. Nice. Good. You got this. Keep working even as your body is asking you to relax. This is tough. Keep it going. 10 more seconds. Pulling yourself a little deeper into that stretch. And then let's push all the way back upright before we relax. Great stuff. Nice. Okay. Then you're going to reorient this back leg. If you'd moved it at all, that's fine. And then turn your pelvis to face towards that back shin. Again, you might find more stretch by sitting upright, or you might need to lean back. Either way, the goal is to try to rotate your thigh one way and not let your pelvis follow. Okay, so just finding this stretch here. Good. All right, now from this stretched position, let's just feel a little pales rails. So start making your ankle and knee heavy into the floor, and let that heaviness create a rotational effort through the working thigh, through the back thigh. Once you register that pales contraction, let's ramp it up to 50% effort. Good. 50% should be enough that the rest of your body really needs to be involved. Okay, now let's transition that over to a rails contraction, thinking about making your ankle light, even thinking of knee getting light, and ultimately trying to rotate your thigh into more internal rotation. Good. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Relax. Good. All right. Turn your body again to face that front knee. Okay. And then here, brace your hands again. So you feel that little bit of plank tension, and start only lifting the back knee and thigh. It might be a minuscule movement. Hannah gets some pretty good lift here, but you might notice only like a lightening of your knee on the floor, and that's fine. I'd rather have that than your pelvis turning excessively or turning without your control. We really want to just find what you can control here. Okay? On this next rep, lift the back knee. Also lift that back arm off the floor so you make a fist, and pin your front knee to the floor as you start to turn and get more lift out of that back leg. When you can't go any further, turn back. Keep trying to work the knee off the floor even as you turn your pelvis, and finally setting that knee down. Good. Let's keep working on this. 30 more seconds. Actively anchor your front knee to the floor. It stays where you put it. Actively push it there. Good. And back. Trying to feel how one part of your body can move independently from the others. Last rep. Prying the knees as wide apart as you can. Continue going now, letting your front knee off the floor and making your way into a straddle 90-90 position. And once you get there, let's grab the shins for a little rest moment. Okay? Now I want you to just take 30 seconds and we're going to return to that idea of finding what your body needs. So just take 30 seconds. A few options here might be to lean one knee towards the floor and then the other knee towards the floor. You might pull or push with your arms to just bias different lines of tension. Okay, you might reorient your upper back. You might articulate your spine a bit. And I want you to just hunt and scan for where your lines of tension are. There's just so much that's happening through our hip joints that it's not always going to be obvious where you need the work. So you really want to zoom in there. Okay? Now from here though, we're going to do a very active effort to finish things up and try to incorporate all the pieces that we just turned on. So we're going to start by feeling that same knee pulling away from elbow sensation that we had in our rails contraction before. Both hands can make fists. And if this position just feels not sustainable at all, you might do this whole effort with your hands on the floor. That works just fine as well. Okay? But from here, Hannah's going to keep fists out. And she's going to start turning back to this first direction. The goal being to touch this front knee to the floor without letting the back knee drop down to the floor. Good. Just touch it down and then turn back into your straddle 90. Keep those knees as wide apart as possible and tap the other knee to the floor. Good. And back. Now as you continue going back to that front side, try to keep your knees as wide apart as possible. Nice. Very nice. Good. Hannah got real lucky. She got to be the model for this one. I just get to yak away at you. Good. And bring it back. One more before we rest. Really try to keep that back knee as far away from the ground as you can. Try to cramp the outside of your back hip. And then same thing towards that back leg. Pinning the back leg, keeping this trailing knee as far away as possible. Great work. Fighting for that distance between your knees, and then hands behind you or hands on shins to relax for a moment. Good. Very nice. Okay? So we're getting into what you might recognize as a 90-90 switch or a 90-90 transfer, but just from this middle point where I think sometimes things go a little off the rails because it becomes very intense. All right. So let's go ahead and finish up in this straddle 90 again. And make two fists, and I'm going to have you start towards the front side where we were starting the class, turning, pin that front knee down. This time, after the front knee gets down, set your back knee down, and then lift that back knee, pry your knees apart, let your front knee off the floor, move through a straddle 90, and continue going over to the other side, pinning your front knee, turning your pelvis, setting your back knee down. Great. Now, Hannah, if you would do the next rep with one arm on the ground, one hand making a fist. So it's going to be very similar, and you could almost be just as upright, but now you're just going to have a little kickstand for support. Good. Transition to the other arm as you move through straddle 90. Good. The main thing, no matter how much lean you need to provide your hips and your body, the main thing is to not let anything move suddenly. So if you notice something trying to move quickly, just try to pause and notice if you're able to control through that range and through that segment of the transfer. Continue making your way back and forth. Good. Very nice. Let's take one more minute. As you work through this at home, feel free to pause at any moment. Feel more stable at those positions. Maybe go back and forth over a little segment that could use more awareness. Be creative with how you're using your arms on the floor. Last 30 seconds, let's just turn up tension as tight as you can. Everywhere. Fists into your upper body, into your glutes. Try to be right on the edge of a cramp all throughout your hip joint. Very nice. I'm noticing Hannah sitting up even a little bit taller than she was earlier, just via the intensity of her contraction. Keep fighting for that. 10 seconds, team. You got it. Don't let it flag yet. Fighting for it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Awesome job. Okay? So next time you have a moment where you can get some rotation going and kind of build on this mobility series, start with what we offered here, but then take it wherever your body is telling you you might use a little extra mobility. Have a great one.